Hello and welcome back to Chapter 9. This is Muscle Tissue Introduction. There's two parts to Chapter 9, Part 1 and Part 2. You'll see 3 learning objectives for Part 1. And the first learning objective today is compare and contrast the basic types of muscle tissue. The second thing we're going to talk about is the characteristics of muscle tissue. And the third thing we're going to talk about is high intensity resistance exercise, aka weightlifting, which is one of my favorite things to do and to talk about. As we begin our first slide, we have a question that we're looking at here, and I want you to think about this for a second. The question is, what is a hernia? And of course, we're in the chapter on muscle, so we're looking at something that's gone wrong with your abdominal muscles, basically. If you're following along in your spiral workbook, you may want to look at the clinical application box at the first of the chapter. It's a little gray box near the very beginning, and you'll see this section on what is a hernia. And so we have 4 questions we're looking at together. And the first question is, what are the 3 different types of hernias? And maybe you've heard of some of these before: hiatal, umbilical, and inguinal. And the second question is then, what is a hiatal hernia exactly? And I don't know if some of you have those or you know somebody that's had a hiatal hernia. But basically, a portion of your front abdominal area is weakened, and it's allowed the stomach to actually protrude and come through the abdominal wall. So you'll look at it and you'll see kind of like this hard bubble or protrusion coming through the upper abdomen above the diaphragm area. The third question is, what is an umbilical hernia? And looking at that key word right there, umbilical, you might have a clue as to where the weak spot is. It's actually a weak spot around that umbilical area, and it allows a piece of like the small intestine to protrude through the umbilical area. And then the fourth question is, what is an inguinal hernia? And you may recognize that word inguinal from Chapter 1 when we did regions of the body. Inguinal being the what? Yes, near the groin, where your leg connects to your abdomen. And so this is where a portion of the intestine or some fat actually protrudes through the inguinal canals in your lower abdomen. Now, everybody, men and women, both have inguinal canals. We have one on each side. And right before you're born, like a month or 2 before you're born, these canals are supposed to seal up and not remain open. But sometimes you can have a birth defect where one or both of the canals remain open. This could be a problem because, like in men, the canals in men there are where the spermatic cords run through those canals and attach down to the testes and the scrotum area. In women, those canals allow for ligaments called round ligaments to run through those areas and attach to your uterus to provide stability for the uterus. Usually you see inguinal hernias in men. They can occur rarely in women, but sometimes you'll see the intestine or fat protruding back in those areas. So that's what that's all about, guys. Our next discussion question is taken from your self-check question 1 in your spiral workbook, so you may want to open that up right now and just go ahead and answer your question there and get it done. The question is, what are the 3 types of muscle tissue and where are they found? Do you know? Okay, some of you may have heard of skeletal, which is the muscles that are attached to our bones that allow us to move. A good example would be your bicep or your tricep muscle. And by the way, when you eat steak or chicken nuggets or whatever you're eating skeletal muscle from the animal. The second type of muscle is smooth muscle. And smooth muscle is very different from skeletal muscle. It's not attached to your bones. It's found in the intestines, it's found in the bronchi of the lung, your esophagus, major blood vessels in the body. And the third type of muscle tissue is cardiac, which is found in the heart.